A brutal prison attack caught on camera, but this wasn't just a fight. It looks like someone wanted Suge Knight dead. Cameras went dark, logs were wiped, and Suge Knight was left bleeding. This feels less like an assault and more like a cover-up. The man who built Death Row Records is now fighting for his life behind bars. But was this attack really about prison life, or was someone trying to silence him? A leaked video shook the hip-hop world. Suge Knight ambushed in jail. Cameras blacked out for 8 minutes. Was this a planned hit? Word on the street isn't just gossip. A brutal attack on Suge Knight inside jail has been caught on video and is spreading fast. People are asking if he's ill, but this looks like prison life taken to a violent extreme. Sources say his recent comments about the music industry made him a target. Someone wanted him gone for good. The leaked footage hints at something darker than a random fight. Marion Suge Knight, the man who built Death Row Records and helped launch careers like Tupac, Dr. Dre, and Snoop Dogg, is serving 28 years for a 2015 voluntary manslaughter conviction. Now, according to several people who examined the leak, he was attacked in June 2025 at R.J. Donovan Correctional Facility in San Diego and suffered serious wounds. Reports about the prison assault on Suge Knight were brutal enough on their own. Accounts described stabbing, repeated beatings, and a vicious attack that left him bloodied and broken. Witnesses say he walked away with cracked ribs, deep cuts across his face, and other serious injuries. But in the aftermath, it wasn't just the violence that drew attention, it was how he looked when the footage leaked. The video didn't just show Suge being jumped. It showed a man who seemed thin, frail, and nothing like the imposing figure who once ruled hip-hop with an iron grip. His eyes looked tired, his face carried more than just scars, and his frame appeared weakened. That single image set off an avalanche of rumors online. Was Suge Knight sick? Was something deeper going on beyond the assault? Almost immediately, speculation spread like wildfire. The most extreme theory claimed Suge was battling HIV or AIDS. Commenters and even self-styled industry insiders pointed to his weight loss, his sluggish movements, and his overall appearance as supposed proof. In one interview clip that went viral, a commentator went so far as to say he'd bet money Suge had HIV, suggesting that his gaunt look came from being off critical medication. Social media ran with it, and within hours, timelines were flooded with half-baked diagnoses and conspiracy theories about his health. But not everyone accepted that narrative. Some journalists, fellow inmates, and even Suge himself pushed back against the rumors. Through a jailhouse interview, he denied the allegations directly, making it clear that his lawyers had full access to his medical records. If anything like HIV were on file, he argued, it would already be out there and impossible to hide. To Suge, the sudden focus on his health was nothing more than a distraction, a way to discredit him right as his claims about the music industry were gaining new traction. This clash between wild speculation online and Suge's own insistence that he isn't sick reveals something deeper about how the public consumes information. In today's viral media cycle, an unflattering video can be enough to create a narrative that overshadows the facts. Suge's injuries from the attack were severe, yet many people skipped past that reality and went straight into armchair medical analysis. It didn't matter whether the rumors were grounded in truth. What mattered was that they were clickable, shareable, and controversial. For Suge, though, the health rumors cut into something bigger, his fight to control his own story. For years, he's insisted that powerful people in the music industry want him silenced. He's claimed that his downfall wasn't just the result of bad choices, but of coordinated efforts to erase him and what he knows. From his perspective, rumors about HIV weren't just idle gossip, they were part of that erasure, designed to weaken his credibility and paint him as a dying man whose words shouldn't be taken seriously. That tension between perception and reality has followed Knight throughout his career. At his peak, he was seen as untouchable, a towering presence who built Death Row Records into a cultural powerhouse. But after his arrest, imprisonment, and now this attack, he's seen less as the fearsome mogul and more as a vulnerable figure. For some fans, that shift has created sympathy. For others, it has fueled the idea that karma is finally catching up with him. Either way, the conversation around his health has become part of the bigger story of his legacy. It also speaks to the way hip-hop culture processes vulnerability. This is a genre built on strength, resilience, and dominance. To see someone like Suge, once the face of power, appear frail or ill challenges that entire image. Fans don't always know how to handle that contradiction, so they turn to speculation, conspiracy, or outright denial. In Suge's case, that meant transforming a brutal assault into a debate over whether he was hiding a terminal illness. Still, Suge has been consistent in shutting those rumors down. He's insisted multiple times that he's not only alive, but determined to keep speaking his truth. He's pointed out that if he really were gravely ill, the courts and media would already have the paperwork. In other words, the system may have tried to take his freedom, but they can't take control of his body without proof. And for him, denying the HIV claims isn't just about protecting his health status, it's about holding on to credibility as he continues to drop bombshell allegations about the music industry. The bigger lesson in all of this is about how quickly the narrative can shift. One moment, people were outraged by the attack and demanding to know how prison security allowed it to happen. The next, the focus had moved almost entirely to whether Suge looked too sick to survive another decade. That whiplash effect shows how fragile the truth can be when filtered through social media. For Suge, whose entire identity now rests on his ability to speak from the inside, those shifting narratives matter. If people stop believing in his strength, they might also stop listening to his claims. At the end of the day, the rumors about Suge Knight's health may say less about his actual condition and more about the way society deals with fallen giants. When a figure as dominant as Suge shows signs of weakness, the world is quick to rewrite the story, to assume illness, and to use that weakness as proof that his time is over. But Suge's refusal to accept that storyline shows he's still fighting, not just for his reputation, but for the right to define his own legacy. Whether you see him as a villain, a visionary, or a mix of both, one thing is clear: Suge Knight refuses to let others write the final chapter of his story. And in a culture where narratives are currency, that resistance may be his most important fight yet. Other viewers say Suge appeared to have trouble seeing in the footage. But that detail shouldn't distract from what happened after the attack: wiped security logs, deleted phone records, and a mysterious 8-minute window when the prison cameras went blank. Those gaps make the incident look less like a random scuffle and more like a planned hit. A quick refresher on who Suge Knight is. He wasn't just another inmate. He built Death Row into a powerhouse that helped define West Coast rap, pulling in huge revenue and signing some of the era's biggest names. With fame and money came enemies, long-standing accusations that he used intimidation and violence, and ties to gang members that left him with many people who might hold a grudge. That history helps explain why someone might want to silence him. According to the leaked footage and eyewitness descriptions, the attack was violent and organized. It reportedly happened in a high-profile housing area of the prison, a unit meant for protected or well-known inmates. Yet the assailant showed up with a covered face and gloves, leaving no obvious ID. The scene looks less like prison chaos and more like a calculated ambush. Why would anyone arrange such an attack? One claim from people close to Suge's record operations says he became a target after revealing sensitive comments about Tupac's final moments and other industry secrets. Whether those claims are true or not, they add motive. If powerful secrets were being shared, people linked to those secrets might want to stop him. What's especially troubling is the apparent institutional response. The footage reportedly shows cameras going static between 10:38 p.m. and 10:46 p.m., a blackout that doesn't look accidental. A cell door was allegedly left open for 2.5 minutes, far longer than normal, giving attackers a window to strike. Witnesses reported hearing thuds and heavy breathing. Then came reports of wiped logs and deleted records. Taken together, these things suggest more than negligence. They point toward a possible cover-up. Mainstream media silence on this story has raised eyebrows too. Despite detailed videos and witness accounts, big outlets haven't widely covered it. Some see that absence as part of a larger effort to contain a story that could expose corruption in both the prison system and the music business. Going forward, this isn't just about one violent night in June. It's about who wanted Suge Knight silenced, what secrets he's been talking about from behind bars, and whether people with power inside and outside the prison system helped make this attack possible. The leaked footage may be the first crack in a wall of silence, and if the claims are true, it's an attack on the truth itself. Secrets so dangerous they may have put a literal target on his back. Since starting his prison podcast, Knight has been pulling back the curtain on what he calls the music industry's worst behavior, a mix of corruption, abuse, and criminal acts that he says reaches the top. The timing of the jailhouse attack looks telling when you hear what Knight has been saying on Collect Call with Suge Knight, which launched in October 2023. This isn't idle chit-chat. These are pointed, detailed allegations aimed at powerful people. The episodes are explosive enough, Knight claims, that someone might have wanted him silenced. One of the biggest claims came in episode 1. Knight alleges that Akon and Detail sexually abused two underage girls, a 13-year-old and her 12-year-old friend, in a hotel room. That's not gossip. It's an accusation of child sexual abuse against well-known figures. Because of the seriousness, those allegations can't be treated lightly. But Knight didn't stop there. Later episodes accuse other high-level figures of wrongdoing. In episode 18, he says Jimmy Iovine wore a wire to entrap him in prison, and that Iovine and Intercope paid Diddy's assistant to conceal abuse. These are claims of criminal conspiracy involving top executives, not small-time feuds. When someone accuses powerful industry leaders of wiretaps and cover-ups, it's more than a rumor, it's a direct challenge to the whole entertainment power structure. Even more explosive, Knight alleges in the same episode that Diddy is an FBI informant. If true, Knight argues, that would help explain how certain high-profile figures seem to avoid major legal consequences despite long-standing rumors and allegations. Knight describes a pattern. Some famous people get repeated run-ins with the law but never face harsh punishment. He says the simplest explanation is that those people are providing information to authorities, trading cooperation for protection. Knight's claims about Dr. Dre are also personal and serious. In episode 20, he revisits alleged violent acts against women, including a 1991 attack on a woman named Dee Barnes. While parts of this history are publicly known, Knight says he has inside details that point to systematic abuse covered up by industry insiders. What makes Knight's narrative so dangerous to the industry, and what might have made him a target, is the system he describes. He paints a picture of a music business run not as competing companies, but as a single, tightly connected machine controlled by a few executives. He names the major players, Clive Davis and Doug Morris among them, as the people who decide who rises and who falls. That's not just business talk, it's an accusation of coordinated power and influence. Knight also describes how abusive behavior gets passed down. He suggests that people who were exploited early in their careers became the exploiters later on. In his view, mentors taught harmful tactics to the next generation, turning victims into perpetrators and locking abuse into the system. Knight says this culture allowed predators to operate for decades, protected by a conspiracy of silence. He argues he lost his company, Death Row Records, not for legal reasons, but because powerful people wanted the label and used fraudulent means to take it, then sold it for far less than its true worth. Whether you accept that version or not, Knight presents it as part of a wider pattern. When you refuse to play by the system's rules, the system will break you. This is why the stakes are so high. Knight isn't just making accusations. He claims to have a map of how the whole system works, who protects whom, who covers what up, and who profits. If his version is right, powerful people have been shielded while whistleblowers get punished. That's the case he's been making from behind bars, a two-tier system where cooperation with law enforcement can buy immunity, and refusal to cooperate or refusal to sell can mean losing everything. Whether any of these claims will be proven is another matter. For now, they're explosive allegations, and according to Knight, they're the reason his life might be in danger. What Suge Knight is saying could explain why someone would want him gone. He's not just a bitter ex-exec. He's a man with decades inside the music world who says he's decided to burn down the system that ruined him. Every podcast episode, every jail interview, every new name he drops is, in his telling, another nail in the industry's image. This wasn't random prison violence, Knight says. He believes it was a planned hit on a man whose knowledge could topple powerful people. The things he's exposing aren't gossip in his view. They're criminal allegations that, if proven, could lead to prosecutions and major shakeups in how the business works. To understand why this matters, you have to remember Knight's place in hip-hop. He didn't just ride the wave, he helped make it. Death Row Records launched huge careers and changed the sound and money flow of the business. That power, Knight says, made him many enemies and put him very close to the industry's secrets. Knight argues the West Coast sound he built didn't just climb the charts, it reshaped culture. Albums and artists from Death Row sold millions and defined an era. But along with that success, Knight says, came a ruthless game of control and influence behind the scenes. His podcast claims go deep. He says powerful figures wanted rivals silenced and that the system protected people who cooperated with authorities. He paints a picture of the music world as a tightly connected machine, run by a small group of executives who decide who wins and who loses. Knight also says abuse and exploitation were passed down like bad practice. People who were hurt early on, he claims, learned to hurt others later. That kind of cycle, he argues, kept predators safe and trapped victims in the same roles. He tells a story about losing death row records not because of fair business, but because rich, powerful people wanted it. Knight says the label was taken from him through fraud and sold for far less than it should have been. In his view, refusal to play the game meant being cut out and punished. Most explosive of all are his claims about Tupac and other famous deaths and injuries. Knight says he has new details about Tupac's last night and about who might have wanted Tupac silenced. He's accused well-known names and said those accusations come from being at the center of those events. He's framed them as eyewitness testimony and long-held knowledge. Knight even suggests methods of keeping rivals quiet and makes claims about other high-profile deaths. These parts of his story are shocking by design. He's broadcasting them knowing they make him a target. Because Knight refuses to stay quiet, he says the forces that once used violence and cover-ups in the 1990s are still active. He believes the same people who protected industry predators then are still protecting them now, and that they have the power to keep whistleblowers out of the way. When asked about cooperating with recent investigations into old cases, Knight has been blunt. He won't testify in what he calls a corrupted system. That refusal, he says, is part of how the whole thing stays hidden. Bottom line, Knight presents himself as someone who can map the system, who knows who protects whom, who covers what up, and how the industry protects its own. Those are his claims. They're explosive, dangerous, and exactly the kind of things that, if true, would make powerful people want them buried. Suge Knight has made it clear that he won't play along with what he sees as another cover-up. For him, the truth isn't found in official reports or courtroom statements. It's in speaking freely, even if it shakes the foundation of everything people think they know. His boldest claim yet? That Tupac never actually died. In one of his most talked-about statements, Knight suggested that if Pac were truly gone, the killers would have been locked up long ago. Instead, he paints an image of Pac alive somewhere, cigar in hand, far from the chaos. Whether you believe that or not, it shows just how far Knight is willing to go to challenge the official version of history. What makes this even more intense is that Knight is saying these things while knowing there could be retaliation. He's not hiding, he's choosing to speak his version of truth no matter the cost. And the bigger picture here is massive. Knight's claims pull back the curtain on a world where power isn't just about money or fame, it's about violence, intimidation, and corruption at the highest levels. He argues that some of the biggest names in music have stayed untouchable by cooperating with law enforcement and eliminating threats. In his words, this isn't just about hip-hop, it's about how American culture itself has been controlled. The attack on Knight inside prison, and the way that footage exploded online, took things to another level. For the first time, the world could see the kind of violence usually hidden behind walls. One clip titled "Suge Knight Attacked in Prison" racked up over 127,000 views, while TikTok posts around the footage soared past 61 million. That kind of reach proves something important. The old gatekeepers can't completely control the story anymore. Knight's impact can't just be measured in platinum records or Billboard hits. His role in hip-hop was a cultural shift, a movement that gave a voice to the unheard and reshaped the way the industry operated. The fact that people are still trying to silence him decades later is proof of how dangerous his knowledge might be. This isn't just about one man getting attacked. It's about an attempt to rewrite or bury hip-hop history itself. The same institutions that celebrate the culture today may have also played a role in hiding its darkest truths. But the viral spread of that footage shows that some truths refuse to stay hidden. Now, Suge Knight's legacy carries a double weight: the empire he built and the secrets he's fighting to reveal. He may be remembered not only for creating some of hip-hop's greatest music, but also for exposing its greatest crimes. And the streets are paying close attention to see what comes next.